Hello and welcome to the chapter 2, schedule schedule future tasks. Roll the intro. And that's quite enough. So let's jump in immediately to our terminal. And this is what we're going to work with. So just to keep things a little bit as a summary, we are going to discuss, a few tools. Let's discuss first the AT utility, then the crontab utility, and last but not least, you're going to talk about a little bit of systemd timers. Okay, so this is going to discuss here in this chapter, and this is going to be the AT utility, the crontab utility, and the systemd utility timers. Then these are the three main subjects of this chapter. As always, as I always recommend, don't forget to test this out yourselves. Don't forget to experiment with this. Don't forget to open your terminals and do your thing and test all of this out yourselves, because it's all about experimentation to get ready, and get ready not only for the exam, but also for your day-to-day life and tasks. So let's start with the AT command. So the AT or AT, you can call it one of the two. So AT because it's an A and a T, of course, or the at because at a specific time. So when you are telling the time, you say at. Okay. What? Okay, cool. So AT because it's an A and a T, and at because when you are telling the time at a specific time. So you can leverage the meaning, whatever the meaning, or the best way you think you can. But this is the AT command and the at command. This is call it whatever you want to call it. So the AT command, it's a very simple command, but that does not mean it's not interesting or useful. It's just very simple to use. For example, let's say I want to run the command today at 4 o'clock. So at let's say 1600. Well, you can, first things first, let's go to the AT command man page, which means that you can go here. It has a few examples. Let's see if I can find. It doesn't have examples. Well, this man page does not have example, but it usually does have an example, several examples. But it's okay. You can check this out, this section around here, more or less. Or well, somewhere around this section, you can it doesn't have an example section, but around this zone here, you can get some ideas on how you can use it. So, for example, it's a very simple way to use it, because you can actually use simple English terms in a way. So, for example, you can say at 1800. Let's use an example directly from the main page, just to make everybody's lives a little bit simpler. So then you can just go crazy. So let's say at 1 p.m. today, or you can even simply tell the time. So let's see what time it is in my server. Time date CTL. This means that we are, well, it's the correct time. Cool. So let's say at. Let's put this in a few seconds ahead. And we can't, let's just touch hello from at in my home folder. Am I going to be I'm being too slow? Let's just do hello. Control D. And I'm never mind. I just typed up a time in the past, so it's going to happen tomorrow. That's what is telling me. February 4th is tomorrow. So let's put this at the 39-minute mark. Let's put today, even though it's not necessary. Let's say touch. Let's call this at.file. Oh god damn it. Let's start this again. Let's say AT was here. Control D to actually schedule this at today at the 39-minute mark. So if you do ATQ, you can actually see the queue, the literal queue. So tomorrow, this is the one I just created by accident, and this is going to be run today at the 39-minute mark. So let's check what time it is. We are almost there, so let's just wait a few seconds, and hopefully it will just run. It's going to run now. Okay, AT was here. So the AT command, and if I go to the ATQ, it should be gone. The one that was executed successfully, it's gone. Oh, sorry. I can do the TRM to remove that that job. I didn't have to remove it. I didn't have to remove it. I just did. So I can see how it's done. So it's a very simple command. You can also use things like, for example, AT at tea time. Today at tea time. I don't have to put today because it's by default. We can just do again touch tea at time. Control D. And it's going to be scheduled for 4 o'clock. So tea time, it's usually 4 o'clock, right? So if there are any British people watching this, tea time is usually at 4 o'clock. Am I right? I may be wrong, but AT thinks that tea time is at 4 o'clock, and we're not going to argue with AT, are we? So at tea time is going to be. You can also have at noon. Not noot. At noon. Let's do to touch. Hello. Control D, and it's at noon. It's going to be at noon, which is midday. So with AT, you can actually do things like this. You can easily use, a simple language, right? You don't have noon tea time. That's simple English, which means that you can actually almost talk to AT like a person, and he can understand for the most part. So ATQ. There you have it. Let's remove the ones you don't want to. ATRM, remove 3. ATRM, remove 4. And we should be good to go with that, which means that our queue should be now gone. So yeah, AT, it's a very, I'm going to say this, but don't take this the wrong way. So AT, it's an older utility, but it does not mean it's less good. So even though it's older, it has its use. And if probably some of you guys are wondering, is this going to survive reboots? And yes, this is going to survive reboots. Okay, which means it's a permanent action, which means that everything I schedule with AT is going to be kept permanent, which means that I can reboot the server and the scheduled tasks are going to be kept. No, I don't have to be root to schedule AT stuff. I'm just using root because I was logged in as root, so I stick with it. You can schedule tasks with non-root users, but of course the non-root users are limited to what they can do using the non-root user, right? But they can schedule their own things. They can schedule their own tasks and with their own accounts. So they have limited possibilities of actions that they can do with those accounts. But that's kind of a given. But they can schedule their own tasks even though they are not root. The next one, it's a crontab utility. The crontab utility, it's an utility. It's a little bit more fancy, okay? Because the AT utility, it's also called the one-off utility, which means that you can create one-off tasks, which means that it's a little bit harder, even though it's not impossible, it's a little bit more harder to create reoccurring tasks. So everyday tasks, every hour tasks, every 5-second tasks. So with the AT command, it's a little bit harder to do so, but the crontab exists exactly for that. So the crontab utility is going to be used to create more reoccurring tasks. I keep forgetting which camera I'm on, so I'm here now. So you can actually, with the crontab utility, it's easier to create recurring tasks. With the AT command, it's also possible, but it's a little bit harder to create recurring tasks. But with the crontab utility, you can actually create recurring tasks more easily. So this is I'm going to show you how a little cheat to remember yourself how to use a crontab utility. So first, I'm going to check a file called etc crontab. I will come back to this file in a few seconds, but for now, let's just use this file to have a little bit of a sheet. How can you schedule tasks using crontab? You'll understand this a little bit better in a few minutes. Just play along with me. So I'm going to get this information. I'm going to highlight it. Then let's say I want to create a task using the root user. I'm using the root user, but you don't have to be root to create these crontab tasks. It can be any user. So let's do crontab -e, for example. And the first thing I will do is to paste this header here. I know it's not very visible with my color scheme, but it's going to be the header. Just put your screen a little bit brighter. I can get this out a little bit. So I'm going to remove this part here, username, and I'm going to write and quit, and I'm going to basically cut the file I just saved, and the file is saved at etc spool. I'm sorry, the other way around. Not etc. Jesus, var spool cron root. So this is the file that I saved using the crontab. So basically, the crontab utility allows me to program the schedules to be used with crontab. This is going to allow me to schedule the crontab schedule. And when I save it, and I do the write and quit, it's going to save a file here, okay? And it's going to get the name of the user that saved the file. So if it was the student user that saved the file, it will be var spool cron student and so forth. So this is my cron file now. It's still a little bit sad because it has only this commentary, but this commentary is going to be kept there, so I know how can I build my future tasks. Okay, so basically this is going to explain the syntax on how the crontab works, or the crontab utility, or the crontab system works. Yes, I can go to the main page. I can go to the main page and get and extract that information. Yes, I can, and I will. But this is going to make my life simpler for the long run. So the first parameter I will put is when to run in terms of the minutes. The next one when to run in terms of the hours. The next one when to run in terms of day of the month. The next one and when to run the month itself, and the day of the week if needed. You can say the minutes in numerical fashion, which makes sense. You can say the months in more like this, which also makes sense. Or you can say the days of the week like this, or with the days. So take your pick of which one you prefer. It's the same thing. So let's just create a task for today. So let's go back to the time date CTL. And so it's a minute 40. Let's put this for the minute 49. Okay. So to see if we have time. So since he's telling me this is what minute to run, which means I'm going to put this running at the minute 49 minutes. It's at the top of the hour, the 10 hour. Day of the month, I don't have to put it in because it's going to be run today. But today it's the 3rd, just to make things a little bit more interesting, of February. And the day of the week, I just don't care. It's just whatever the case. Let's put the star here. And there we go. And then we'll just finish up with the command to run. So I can put the free command just to check the free space on my hard drives. So it's just a matter of just following along. Which minute, what hour, day of the month, which month, day of the week if you want to, or just say whatever the day it is, and a command. That's fine. So I still say we still have some seconds to spare. So I can also do something like this. This will going to tell the system to run this every 5 minutes. And I'm going to tell it between 10 and 11 every day. I'm just making things as I go along the free command. So this is going to run the free commands between 10 and 11 every 5 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to save this. And a good thing to know about the crontab utility is that if I try to save, there is some syntax errors, I will not be able to save. So the crontab.e is only going to save if the file is healthy. It's only going to save if there are no syntax errors on the file, which means that this file is good to go, because if it had an error, it will just be reported. So right now, all we have to do is wait for the minute 49 to make sure that things just went smoothly. While we wait, basically you can discuss the original file. I lost it. Let's type this again. So etc crontab. So the difference between the etc crontab file and the regular crontab is that you can see here I need to specify a username to execute the task. So the crontab -e is going to create that far spool cron file, and this is considered the user's cron table. So usually it's reserved for the user to execute its own personal stuff, and this file here is going to be used for the system stuff. So the crontab -e is going to be used for the user to run its own personal stuff, not quite system stuff, even though root could do that with his own account. But to keep things separate, one thing is for the root account to run stuff, other thing is for the system to keep himself healthy. It's the etc crontab file. So in the etc crontab file, the syntax is the same. It's basically the same service. It's the cron service checking this out. But you can put here a username, which means that this task is going to be run with the different user's context, not the root user, if you prefer that. Okay? So usually this file is used for system stuff to keep the system running, and the crontab -e is going to be used for the personal stuff, the personal user. And yes, of course, root is entitled to do that for himself, which is also fine and dandy. So etc crontab -e is going to be for personal stuff. You can work around this with the root user, of course you can. And the crontab -e, or the etc crontab, sorry, is going to be for system stuff. So now you have two ways to schedule your tasks. The AT, it's kind of the most traditional way in terms of age. It's a more aging tool, still good enough for some tasks. And the crontab, it's more tailored to get things running with reoccurrence every 5 seconds, every half an hour, a specific day, a specific date, etc., etc., etc. There are some macros that you can use. Let me see if I can find them really quick. Let me see if I can find them. It's somewhere in the man pages, maybe on the 5. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. Okay. This is also how can you remind yourself how to build a file, even though I think the trick of checking the etc crontab file actually works great. And you also have some macros that you can use. I think they are somewhere around here. Yeah, they are there. They are. These macros mean a specific point in time. So after every reboot, once a year, January, usually the 1st January, at annually, which is kind of the similar approach, at monthly, at weekly, at daily, and hourly. So you can actually do at hourly, and it will be run at the top of the hour every hour, at daily every day at midnight. So you don't have to type this out yourself. You can, there's no harm doing on that, but you can just type your macros like this, and it's pre-programmed to work, to behave like this. So you can type it yourself or use the macros for your own benefit. You can just use the one or the other. So the AT, it's a more simple tool, but still yet it can have its uses. And then you also have the crontab, which is better for reoccurrence and things to occur at a certain frequency. It's easier to do that with the crontab than it is with the AT command, and you should be good to go. Last but not least, something I will reference in a more shorter fashion, because I just want to reference for you guys to know that it exists. I will not dive too much into it because it's not the time to do so. And if you can make yourselves really good and fine with the AT and crontab. The other one is the systemd tempd. Let me see if I can just quickly show you. So let's try to investigate the etc. For example, etc temp the files. And for example, well, you don't have to cat it. Let's cd into it. Okay. So basically this has no much things. So let's go to the usrlib. I don't like to go to the usrlib that much, but let's dive into it because it's a very simple installation. Now at least there should be a bunch of files here. So basically this is not the AT, this is not the crontab, this is a systemd system embedded recurrence mechanism. If you don't know who systemd is, go back to my RH124 playlist and check more details there. But basically systemd is kind of our master process that keeps the system running. And one of the tasks it does to keep the system running is to manage temporary things with a cycle. Okay, so let's check just as an example the tmp. If you are old enough, you probably remember an executable called tempwatch, tmpwatch. It's kind of a cousin of logwatch. What this script used to do was to keep an eye on the temp and vartemp folders to avoid that them don't get overflowed. That script is, even though it still exists, it's not used by default because systemd is now doing its job. And by doing that, I can see here two parameters that is kind of checking the presence of the two most customary temporary folders, the /temp and vartemp. What it's going to do here, it's going to create the folders if they do not exist, and they're going to clean the folders in the case of the vartemp. In case of the /temp, it's going to clean them every 10 days, and in the case of the vartemp, it's going to clean them every 30 days. So just check it out, this folder yourself in your own time, and just tap in all the conf files there, and you see that there are many things happening in the background that you actually don't really need to temper them ourselves. It's here, they are here for a reason. I rarely touch these files. I think I had touched them a couple of times outside training, of course, because the defaults usually are pretty good enough. They do their job. Maybe you need to kind of tweak a little bit how more or less frequency in terms of checking how big the folders are and cleaning them, but usually that's the case. But what I want you guys to retain here is that right now, for the longest time, we had the AT and the crontab. Now we have AT, crontab, and systemd temp files. Systemd temp files is slowly creeping in and becoming the norm, but still far from that. So for now, if you want to create your own schedule tasks, stick with AT or crontab. If you want, and leave the systemd temp files to do its thing. It does its thing very nicely, and it's great. So just train yourselves with the AT and the crontab. You'll be perfectly good to go. Just take a quick gander at the systemd temp files so you don't find it too strange if you want to run with them. But AT and crontab, it's the way to go to get your system up and running and keep things under control, and to get your schedule tasks up and running. If you're talking about the exam, AT, crontab, simple stuff, knows how to schedule a simple task for a specific time, and you should be good to go. That's all for chapter 2. Like and subscribe, it really helps. To keep an eye on the playlist for more edit videos about the RH134. Like and subscribe, like I said, it really helps, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.